Everything started with promises, with sky-high expectations and a fan base hungry for a new star. Jonathan Kuminga arrived at the Golden State Warriors surrounded by optimism, carried by words like potential, future, and elite athleticism. But time passed, and what was supposed to be a rising trajectory turned into an emotional, strategic, and now personal roller coaster. The saga surrounding Kuminga has just entered a new chapter, and the atmosphere in San Francisco has never been so tense. Forget the old story about a simple contract. What's at stake here is much bigger. It's autonomy, it's respect, it's the right to rewrite one's own destiny. And above all, it's a rupture that says far more about the Warriors than it does about the player himself. In the Warriors' latest official move, the front office presented a new contract extension offer. 2 years, $45 million. That's right, $22.5 million per season. A slight but meaningful increase over the previous offer, which hovered around $40 million. It seemed fair, but it wasn't enough. Kuminga turned it down, and not out of greed, out of principle. On paper, the numbers are attractive, but the contract came with one detail that changed everything: a team option in the second year. In other words, Kuminga would once again be at the mercy of the franchise. He could be traded, waived, or molded according to the desires of an executive group that, according to him, never truly saw him as a real priority. For a player who spent 4 seasons waiting to take center stage, that kind of clause felt like a disguised trap. And he's had enough of being a promise, of being kept in the background, of watching his minutes fluctuate at the mercy of Steve Kerr's tactical decisions. On many nights, he didn't even take off his warm-ups. Other times, he shined, only to be benched again the following game. This emotional and professional instability took its toll, and now he wants something simple: control over his own career. Kuminga's agent, Aaron Turner, knew the situation required a strategic response. During the Summer League in Las Vegas, he met with the Warriors executives and presented a new contract model: 3 years, $82 million, a clear jump, about $27.5 million per season, enough to show that Kuminga knows his own worth and that he's no longer willing to accept scraps. More than that, according to experts, this proposal would keep Golden State below the dreaded second apron, the financial barrier imposed by the new CBA that severely restricts the flexibility of teams that cross it. With Curry, Draymond, and now Butler accounting for over 80% of the salary cap, every cent matters. Even so, the Warriors hesitated. They preferred to stick with the original model: less money, more control. But while the franchise stares at spreadsheets, Kuminga is looking in the mirror. He wants to be valued as an athlete. He wants stability. He wants a structure that places him at the center of the project, not as a disposable rotation piece. He's not asking to be the next Stephen Curry. He's asking to be taken seriously. It's worth remembering, Golden State always treated Kuminga as a long-term investment, but that narrative started falling apart over time. The player watched less talented names leapfrog him in the rotation. He saw opportunities slip away. He watched the clock tick, and now he wants more than promises. He wants concrete action. In this context, 2 teams have emerged as potential destinations: the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. The Suns, in particular, have shown strong interest. They offered 4 years, nearly $90 million, with more guaranteed money up front and a player option at the end. For a player seeking stability, that sounds like a gift from the gods. But there's a catch. Phoenix doesn't have the assets the Warriors want. And Golden State, even with tensions at a breaking point, has no intention of letting Kuminga go for just anything. The Kings, on the other hand, have more flexibility. They have more attractive assets and negotiable contracts. Still, the talks are far from a resolution, because as much as Kuminga wants to leave, he remains a restricted free agent, and that gives the Warriors the final word, for now. Behind the scenes, the front office's message is direct. Take what we're offering or play the final year under the qualifying offer. That means pocketing around $7.9 million and becoming an unrestricted free agent next season. A risky move, but one that would give Kuminga the total freedom he's been yearning for. And the most surprising part? He seems willing to take that path. He has publicly said he's in no rush, that he's prepared to wait, that he'd rather risk leaving for free than tie himself again to a system that has already brought him so much frustration. Internally, the Warriors try to justify their stance. They say the current offer is generous, that the contract was structured to allow a trade after January 15th, that this would give Kuminga the chance to start fresh if he still wanted out. But once again, it all comes down to trust, and that trust has long been lost. The truth is, the relationship between both sides is worn down. Kuminga believes he was sabotaged, that he never got a real opportunity to consistently show his worth, that every flash of brilliance was immediately shut down by coaching decisions and internal preferences. And you can't say he's completely wrong. When Curry was out, when the team needed energy, Kuminga stepped up. He played well. He took responsibility. He showed he can contribute at a high level. But even then, he went back to the shadows when the stars returned. For a young man trying to prove himself, that's a painful message. The atmosphere behind the scenes is extremely tense. With each passing day, the risk of a definitive break grows. And while the NBA world watches, the Warriors face a tough decision: keep Kuminga on a short leash or let him go and create a hole in their future. Because no matter how much the front office claims to trust its core, it's impossible to ignore that this core is aging, and losing a rising talent like Kuminga could come at a heavy cost down the road. The front office still believes it can turn things around. They trust that in time the player will give in, that he'll accept the contract, that he'll understand the benefits of staying on a championship-caliber team. But maybe they're underestimating something essential: the desire for freedom. And that freedom has a name, a face, a voice. It's Jonathan Kuminga, tired of waiting, ready to fly, with or without Golden State's blessing. Behind all this backstage tension, there's a detail that few are noticing, but it might just be the definitive spark for an irreversible rupture. The Warriors aren't just playing with Kuminga's time and patience. They're testing the limits of a locker room that, despite all its victories, has already shown signs of wear and emotional fatigue. Within the group, it's no secret that some players recognize Kuminga's value and see that, many times, he was underused. Some believe the young player could have been a key piece in moments when the team lacked energy or creative solutions on the court. And this feeling, even if not openly voiced, creates silent cracks in the team's chemistry. It's impossible to ignore that Kuminga was one of the few rotation players capable of doing things the roster lacks: athletic explosiveness, defensive versatility, and the ability to attack the rim consistently, traits that, in many games, made a real difference. Yet he was always treated as an accessory, never as a developing protagonist. For many, the issue goes beyond tactics. It's cultural. The Golden State Warriors built their dynasty on a foundation of mutual trust, loyalty to the system, and patience with the process. But in recent years, as financial pressures increased and results became more volatile, the culture also changed. The same organization that nurtured Curry, Clay, and Draymond with care now seems less willing to repeat that process with the new generation. And that does not go unnoticed by Kuminga. He watches closely as other young players around the league are given opportunities to fail, learn, and grow. In Golden State, he feels he doesn't have that luxury. One mistake on the court could mean 2 weeks on the bench. One below-average game might be enough to be forgotten in the rotation. And for a developing athlete, that kind of instability is suffocating. At its core, what's at stake here isn't just the future of one player. It's the future of the Golden State Warriors' identity as an organization. How they handle the Kuminga case will be closely watched by other young talents, by agents, by executives across the league. A message is being sent, and its content will be decisive for shaping the franchise's next phase. That's why the decision to hold on to Kuminga against his will may seem rational on paper, but emotionally risky. Forcing a player to stay where he no longer wants to be is a dangerous gamble. It creates resentment, affects team energy, contaminates the locker room, and in practice, it rarely ends well. Backstage rumors suggest that Kuminga is no longer actively participating in all of the group's internal dynamics. He's more introspective, more distant. There's no open hostility, but there is silence. And in competitive environments like the NBA, silence often speaks louder than screams. Meanwhile, his agent is working, evaluating every scenario, exploring every loophole in the league rules. The goal is clear: to find a trade partner willing to bet on Kuminga and offer the Warriors something reasonably attractive in return. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. There are executives who believe Kuminga could explode in a more flexible system, that all he needs is consistency and trust, a structure that values his strengths and accepts his flaws. And there are teams with cap space, a need for young talent, and available minutes. The ideal scenario is lurking. The pieces just need to align. Still, Golden State remains firm in its stance. They want to maintain control. They want to protect themselves financially. They want to preserve future flexibility. But in doing so, they're risking far more than losing a single player. They're risking severing the bridge between a victorious past and a promising future. And at this point in the story, everything takes on a new tone. Because the question is no longer, how much is Kuminga worth? It becomes, what's worth more, control or trust? And that's a question that can't be answered with numbers. It's a matter of vision, of identity, of courage to take risks when everything screams for stability. For many analysts, the Warriors' insistence on keeping control clauses in the contract shows a veiled fear, the fear that Kuminga will truly break out, but somewhere else. And that kind of regret is costly, because it's not just about losing talent. It's about watching that talent shine elsewhere, knowing it was the organization itself that stifled his growth at home. It's a mental chess match. On one side, a player who no longer accepts being hastily molded to fit into a strategy that never truly embraced him. On the other, a franchise afraid of losing what little control it still has over its own future. Meanwhile, preseason is approaching, and with it, the need for definitive decisions. There's no more time for delays. Kuminga needs an answer. The Warriors need direction, and the fans deserve clarity. With each passing day, more voices rise demanding transparency, asking the franchise to treat its young players with the same care it once gave its legends. Because you don't build a future with distrust, and you don't protect a legacy by erasing tomorrow's promise. Jonathan Kuminga is more than just a name on a stat sheet. He's a symbol of something the Golden State Warriors must decide whether they still believe in: the power to develop, trust, and transform. As the standoff drags on, the league's backstage buzzes with speculation. Insiders know that Kuminga is on the radar of several franchises that see in him a rare opportunity, a young, athletic forward with a sky-high ceiling and a hunger for stardom. In other times, this type of player would be untouchable. But now, with frayed relationships and increasingly clear signs of a break, the possibility of a trade is becoming more real and more urgent. A sign and trade model is, at this moment, the most logical route. It would allow Kuminga to sign with the Warriors only to be traded immediately afterward. Golden State wouldn't lose him for nothing, and Kuminga would gain the freedom he's been yearning for. But this kind of financial engineering requires precision. It demands that the interested team either have cap space or players with matching salaries to balance the deal. And more importantly, that they're willing to pay what Kuminga believes he's worth. That's where the pressure builds, because if the Warriors are too rigid in their demands, they risk scaring off suitors. And if they concede too much, it sends the message that they gave up a valuable asset out of fear of public backlash. Neither scenario is comfortable for a franchise that, for years, has been used to controlling the narrative. Executives across the league are watching closely. They know this isn't just an isolated case. It's a reflection of what can happen when an organization tries too hard to control the natural growth of its talent. The NBA today isn't the same as it was a decade ago. Young players want a voice, space, and projects that put them at the center. Kuminga embodies this new profile, and his stance is being noted with interest by others in his generation. Inside the Warriors' own locker room, the atmosphere is one of suspense. Some veterans avoid public comment, but behind the scenes, there's open talk about the impact Kuminga's departure would have on the roster, not just because of his talent, but because of the message it would send to other young players. Here, Your growth has a ceiling, and we control it. That can push future talent away. It can create invisible barriers no tactical structure can overcome. And for a team that needs to refresh itself while still competing for championships, that's dangerous. Kuminga, for his part, remains silent, but his actions speak loudly. He's not attending team events. He's not making public appearances associated with the franchise. And according to close sources, he's been training with private coaches, far from the team's facilities. It's a strategic and emotional distancing. Behind the scenes, agent Aaron Turner continues talking to potential partners. In addition to the Suns and Kings, other teams have begun quietly circling. Teams like the Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic, and even the Raptors are seen as viable options, whether due to a need to strengthen the wing or a desire to inject youth into their cores. All see Kuminga as a project worth betting on. But for any deal to move forward, the Warriors need to lower their guard. And so far, there's no sign they're willing to do that. They continue to rely on emotional fatigue as a negotiating tool. They believe that with time, Kuminga will cave, that he'll accept the contract, even without a starting guarantee, even without protective clauses. But the player seems willing to wait as long as it takes, because for him, this isn't just a contract battle. It's a war for autonomy, for dignity, for everything he feels he's been denied in recent years. Meanwhile, the days pass. The off-season progresses, and what should have been a simple contract extension has turned into a vivid portrait of the tension between past and future, between the control of one era and the freedom of a new generation. The Golden State Warriors, once a symbol of innovation and modern team basketball, now face an internal dilemma that no stat can solve. And it's not just about keeping or losing Kuminga. It's about deciding whether the club is ready to let go of its past and truly build something new, even if that means dealing with discomfort along the way. If they choose to let him go, they'll need to find a partner willing to take on the challenge of refining a diamond that, so far, has only been partially polished. And if they choose to keep him by force, they'll have to deal with the consequences of retaining a frustrated talent with a spirit already outside the locker room. In this scenario, there is no easy way out. Only hard decisions, and those choices will define what the Warriors will be in the coming years. A franchise brave enough to reinvent itself, or one that remained stuck in its own legacy. Because in the end, this story was never just about Jonathan Kuminga. It was about what happens when a player begins to understand his own worth and refuses to accept less than what he deserves. The basketball world is about to witness a potential significant shift in the NBA landscape, and this twist could come directly from the Pacific. Recent reports suggest that the Golden State Warriors, one of the league's most influential franchises, are conducting discreet negotiations to sign Sotto, the 2.18-meter-tall Filipino center, to join their roster for the 2025 season. This news has sparked great excitement among fans and analysts, not only because of the technical contribution Sotto may offer, but also due to the strong cultural symbolism his presence carries. If confirmed, this signing goes beyond the idea of just a sports reinforcement. It represents a strategic step that could redefine the ties between the San Francisco team and one of the largest fan bases spread around the world, especially in Asia. Sotto is not just a standout athlete due to his height or the unique skills he showcases on the court. He reflects an inspiring journey that began in the Philippines, within a culture where basketball is more than a sport. It's a national passion. From a young age, Kai showed signs that he could achieve something extraordinary. As the years went by, he not only grew physically but also technically, proving to be much more than a traditional post player. His modern profile, which combines wingspan, mobility, and a reliable mid-range shot, has been catching the attention of NBA scouts and executives. Today's basketball requires versatility, and Kai seems to have been shaped with this new mentality in mind. He can impact the game both defensively, with his ability to block shots and protect the rim, and offensively, where he offers a wider range of possibilities by stepping away from the fixed center stereotype. His international journey is further proof of his adaptability and growth. Leaving the Philippines as a teenager, Sotto showed courage and vision, opting to develop his career in more competitive environments. His first major international experience was in the Australian League, the NBL, where he faced physically imposing opponents with high technical levels. Even at a young age, he stood out for his presence on defense and contributions on offense. Later, when he moved to the Japanese B-League, his game matured even more. There, he not only solidified his role as one of the league's best athletes, but also became a reference figure, proudly representing his Filipino roots. This journey, marked by challenges and overcoming obstacles, has earned Kai Sotto respect not only for what he does on the court, but also for what he represents off of it. In a scenario where the NBA is looking to expand its international influence, having a player with global appeal, especially in a market as engaged as the Filipino one, is a rare opportunity. And the Warriors, always attentive to innovation both on and off the court, seem to have seen this clearly. From a technical standpoint, his arrival could fill gaps that have been long discussed by analysts and fans of the team. The lack of a dominant center who combines physical strength and tactical intelligence has been pointed out as one of the recurring weaknesses of the roster. Kai, with his combination of size, coordination, and game-reading ability, fits exactly into this profile. He has the potential to be a reliable rim protector, offering an intimidating presence in the paint, while also contributing offensively with accurate mid-range shots and even smart passes that help the flow of plays. More than that, he could strengthen the team's offensive transition, helping with defensive rebounds that start fast breaks and continuing the fast, fluid style that has become the Warriors' trademark in recent years. His versatility would allow the coach to adjust the rotation more freely, offering tactical variations that would be hard to contain. Symbolically and culturally, Kai Sotto's arrival would represent a historic moment. The Bay Area, where the team is based, is home to one of the largest Filipino communities outside of the Philippines, which would create an immediate connection between fans and player. It would be a natural union, with the potential to attract even more fans to the Chase Center, the team's modern arena, as well as increased digital engagement and media coverage of the team in new markets. The impact goes beyond the sport. The signing of Kai could be understood as a strategic move that reinforces the franchise's global positioning. The Warriors have always been at the forefront of marketing, innovation, and inclusion, and Kai Sotto, as a global figure, fits perfectly into this project. With his presence, the team would not only strengthen its image as a multicultural team, but also open doors for business partnerships with brands interested in reaching the Asian market. Moreover, it's hard to ignore the inspiring potential of this journey. For young people in the Philippines and other developing countries, seeing Kai Sotto being signed by an NBA giant is concrete proof that bold dreams can be achieved with effort, talent, and perseverance. His story of overcoming challenges and discipline would inspire a new generation of athletes to pursue their goals, even if they seem distant at first. On the court, Kai wouldn't be alone. By joining a team with experienced players, he would have the chance to develop even further. Under the guidance of coach Steve Kerr, known for his ability to bring out the best in each player, Sotto would have access to a solid technical structure, focused not just on immediate results, but on long-term growth. Kerr's philosophy is not just to win, but to form complete athletes who understand the game and can make decisions with confidence. Another crucial point is the chance for Sotto to learn from the veterans on the team. Players like Stephen Curry and Draymond Green offer more than just talent on the court. They are examples of leadership, work ethic, and commitment to the team. For Kai, sharing the locker room with these figures would be a valuable opportunity for practical learning, absorbing the experience of those who have already been through major decisions and carried the team in crucial moments. Draymond, for example, is a defensive and game-reading specialist. His ability to guide teammates and command the defense in real time could serve as an intensive course for Kai, accelerating his adaptation to the intensity and complexity of NBA play. Similarly, being around Curry would allow Sotto to understand up close the mindset of an athlete who revolutionized modern basketball. In the context of the current roster, Kai would bring unique characteristics that would expand the team's range of possibilities. He could be used in taller lineups, reinforcing the paint, or even in lighter schemes, using his mobility to guard players in switches and coverages. His potential as a facilitator on offense, through passes and smart movements, would also fit well into the offensive system based on cuts and fast movements. By joining the Golden State Warriors, Kai wouldn't just be taking another step in his career. He would be writing a new chapter in NBA history, where a young player from the Philippines breaks boundaries and joins one of the most iconic franchises in world basketball. His name would become part of a select group of players who not only wore the jersey of a great team, but also contributed to expanding the global reach of the sport. So, did you like the video? Then leave a like to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any updates. Also, hit the bell to get all the content firsthand. Thanks for watching and see you next time.